Hello and welcome to episode 432 of Daily Global Insights. A lot of things happening around the world. First of all, we are going to be talking about what is happening in Bhutan. You will remember that the king visited India for 3 days. Something is afoot there. Let's welcome Sridhar Chityala ji, and he will update us about what is happening around the world. So first, please like this video, and if you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so right away. Let's welcome Sridhar Chityala ji. Sridhar ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar and good morning to everybody, and happy to be back here on Tuesday morning.
Thank you, Sridhar ji. First off, is China invading Bhutan? Something really scary going on, sir. But you can just touch one line and then we will go through our slide deck, which has a slightly different sequence. But I just wanted you to touch upon this to get the people to understand the danger that lurks on India's borders.
Indeed, I think the answer is yes. It appears that there are two satellite images, one which is August and one which is, we'll not be showing those images today, but we'll probably in due course, which shows that there is now villages, and right inside the border, when we show the map, you'll see where it is, as well as the PLA positions. No different to the incursions that they have done on the LAC. Cattle grazers, they come in, they occupy the space, and they never leave.
Thank you so much, sir. And can we have the slide deck now, please? Israel. Pardon for the typo. It is Israel on the heading. The IDF is striking terror sites in Lebanon after rocket fires. Israel has been pressuring, or it's being pressured to end the war. It is inconsistent with eliminating Hamas. I've got my line jumbled up there. Sridhar ji will unpack it for me. And a US F-35 shoots down a Houthi cruise missile. Houthis have been launching a lot of missiles at commercial tankers as well as US naval warships. The question was when the US is going to retaliate. I think something like that has happened now. Over to you, Sridhar ji.
Yes, well, I think the Israel war lingers on, and it is certainly the most strategic and critical issue that's making headlines. IDF has now expanded its footprint, with rocket fires from Lebanon. They have targeted the Lebanese sites and taken out some of the Hezbollah warriors. Hezbollah has acknowledged the casualties, and they have not mentioned one word about either Hamas or PLA. In the casualties that they specifically took. Now, there's also growing pressure both from United States. When I say United States, not from Biden administration, but from various factions, as well as United Nations, to say end the war and extend the ceasefire. But that is inconsistent with what you are hearing even from own Middle East, which is to say continue and make sure that the Hamas problem is completely eliminated. So Netanyahu went on the television and said, there's no way we can end this war without achieving the objective of, eliminating Hamas. The other important thing here is that there are two messages. The F-35 shooting down the Houthi missiles in the Middle East is a very important development, which also tells the Chinese that the F-35s are highly capable in terms of targeting and taking out the enemy kind of aircraft. So that's again another important development. And the Houthis continue to be the Iranian surrogates from Yemen. And then, of course, the Hezbollah from Lebanon. They're trying to expand the footprint.
Viewers, I hope our audios are coming through fine. If you can, please send us a comment that the levels of audio of both mine and Sridhar ji are okay. And we will continue on. Sridhar ji, in the case of Israel, if you look at the northern part of Gaza, Israel has practically flattened it above the ground, and they have also flooded the tunnels under the ground. Essentially, my guess that Gazans don't have a place to return to once all this is over, once Hamas is eliminated. I'm just saying 6 months down the road or whatever the time. There is no way anyone can reside in Gaza unless something dramatically changes. My guess is that there is going to be an alternate place for the Gazans. What are your thoughts on that, sir?
Well, I think that's the objective, which is effectively this buffer area, which is a small strip that was used effectively, unadministered, uncontrolled, which is why you have seen the proliferation of tunnels and other kinds of surreptitious activity. Even under hospitals, they have had military facilities and storage facilities under the hospitals. So it's come to light, and this was the point of instigation of the October 7th incidents. So the point that you're making is whether it is livable or habitable, after this, the war is executed, remains a very big question mark. Many of them are either moved into adjacent, Egyptian area on the southern side, and then I think they're moving towards the Jordanian side on the northern side. So you're beginning to see the movement happening. It clearly is not a place where there is going to be inhabitants. Even the Hamas leadership has fled that area. There are rumors and reports which indicate, as part of the first and second kind of the corridor, the ceasefire corridor, many of them leveraged and escaped using that route.
And viewers, I hope you saw the video that I put out about who in the U.S. Department of State hates Israel. It was also a part of who in the state hates India. And if you see that, you will know that there are many forces within the United States government that are also trying to slow this thing down, make an outrage. A couple of things that I'll give you connected with this. First of all, many people, are making noises that Netanyahu should resign. I don't think he's going to quit before these activities are over, and he should not quit. It is his, whatever be the, factions inside. Right now, Israel is speaking with one voice. That's again another attempt to slow down. By the way, you saw that the president of UPenn has resigned. Now comes news that the Harvard board has refused to fire Claudine Gay. In fact, 600 plus professors have written in support of her. So the same group, the pressure groups, whoever is the ones who are supporting these works, they are not willing to let go. So Harvard, you're having a battle royal. And so what I'm trying to say is that inside US, inside UN, inside UK, inside many countries, there have been complete infiltration, and Canada too. So there are going to be a lot of these subplots and things, pulls and pressures. We have to wait and see how firmly the Biden administration stands to see this thing forward. Also, sir, okay, we'll talk about Ukraine when it comes. Next slide, please. Special counsel urges Supreme Court to decide quickly if Trump has special immunity from prosecution. I'll just stop here, sir. This is very, very important. If Trump doesn't get jailed or prosecuted, if the Supreme Court rules that Trump can run, then it is over, right? It doesn't matter how many cases they run against him.
Exactly. I think that this is the essence. I think I just want to, recap. There are essentially three charges that the special counsel, Jack Smith, has laid. First is he accused Trump of a conspiracy to defraud United States. This whole charge hinges on what prosecutors describe as using dishonesty, fraud, and deceit to obstruct electoral process. That's the first charge. The second charge, the indictment argues that there was a conspiracy to obstruct election official proceeding, particularly the counting of electoral college votes on January 6th. We have covered all of these things going back in time
in great detail.
Yep. And finally, it cites a conspiracy against voting rights, alleging Trump and his co-conspirators willfully sought to disenfranchise voters. This is effectively saying there's a lot of fraudulent votes. And I also added another one, which is obstructing and attempting to obstruct the vote verification proceedings. So this whole thing hinges on these four. And if you see very carefully, there was no indictment on incitement. They've not used the word incitement. This was the whole thing about the January 6th committee inquiry and investigations about. He has clearly stayed away from that, recognizing that could be a very, very slippery slope. Now, what he's saying is, these are the indictment. I've got, people, witnesses and allies and co-conspirators and states all colluding with me. But suddenly, if Trump comes to Supreme Court and pleads that he is beyond prosecution as a former president, then the whole thing goes out of window. Many of these things are likely to come up between March and August next year, right around the time when the Republicans will select their nominee, and Trump is leading by a long distance. So this is a very important case that we will follow as we go through the process and step into 2024. It's a very interesting battle. By the way, also Trump did not appear yesterday in New York fraud trial. He has refused to attend any of these things, basically saying this is all political vendetta.
Yes, indeed. It started way back in 2021 when a judge ruled against the Republicans in Georgia. To go back, and you'll have to watch DGI, look at the person who was the judge. Was that person related to the then DNC chair? That is the question you should be looking at, guys. This is a cabal of small set of people who have the knives out for Trump. And may I request all of our viewers to please like this video. We are running a little bit lower than what I would expect at this point of time in terms of the viewership. So please, because we are covering a lot of ground in this. It's been a week since we had the Daily Global Insights, and we are going to be covering a lot of ground. Everything here probably is the first time you'll be hearing it. So please like this video. Let's go on to the next one, sir. Ukraine president is, no, next, previous slide, please. Ukraine president to plead with lawmakers for more aid in the United States as Congress weighs options. Sir, what is the latest on this?
Well, I think the latest on this is they're going to, the opinion is very divided. And especially between Democrats, equally between Democrats and Republicans, whether they can continue to sustain this aid in the absence of the clarity of the mission. The clarity of the mission here is, when does this end? And what is the definition of the end state? It's not clear. You're keeping on funding, and both of them are, one day win, one day loss, one day win. So he says that unless United States funds and Europe funds, he cannot sustain the war. And there is a Republican lawmaker who has indicated that, hey, you have to concede territory and come to a kind of a resolution. So he has come here making a plea. And I think that we have discussed this. Unless Ukraine concedes and makes some kind of agreement with Russia, and United States and Europe provide security guarantees to Russia, this war is not going to end, Sriji.
Let's wait and see how this thing plays out. Certainly, the US taxpayer is paying a lot of hits or her tax money in this. Next one, please. Special counsel asks US Supreme Court to rule on Trump's claim of immunity. So this is the one that we talked about. Is there anything you would like to add, sir, or shall we go to the next slide?
No, I think that Trump has been asked to respond to the petition filed by the Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, special counsel. So we'll see what Mr. Trump comes up with.
Next one, please. India news. FBI Director Christopher Wray met CBI Director Praveen Sood, discussed greater cooperation in cyber-related financial crimes, amongst other topics. Viewers, those of you who saw my hangout with Delhi R. Rajagopal, he hinted that this data that has been shared has 3 big Indian politicians, and one of them from the south. That's what we have talked about. Sridharji, I'm hoping that a birdie came and whispered in your ear of the 3 names.
No, they certainly did not whisper the names, but substantive issues covered around the Ministry of External Affairs responses to various allegations that have been made on this the killings that has taken place. And effectively, they have boiled it down, and we covered this again in the most recent DGI, that United States takes financial crimes and cyber crimes extremely seriously, especially money laundering. It doesn't want to be. It doesn't want to be part of any of those things, notwithstanding all the other kind of political acrimonies. So clearly, there's a lot of financial information that was shared about people, about money that is being held in United States, and how this money is being floated around. Whether you call as eagle eyes or 5 eyes or 6 eyes, or around the kind of able and willing nation. So I think certainly that data was shared, and I think this will also go to Madam Janet Yellen, because she's very keen to make sure that she's running a fairly clean kind of an administration within this specific context. So I think India is going to come out of this, as we mentioned before, fairly successfully as the data is presented, Sriji.
So, viewers, just to jog your memory, some of the political personalities who can't get in so easily into the United States. Mr. Omar Abdullah, the chief minister of, or ex-chief minister of Jammu and Kashmir. And every time he comes to the United States, he has to wait, cool his heels in the immigration for a few hours. Guess who else? Mr. Shah Rukh Khan. And these are the two that I know of. Many will quietly come, face the heat, get through some tough questioning, and then slip in and out of the United States. But this is the reality. Don't think that this is saber rattling on part of US. US is serious about money laundering, and there's a lot of Indian slush money in the United States. I know that. I can't reveal it because it's that the link is not something that's black and white that you can catch and aha, you gave this is the trail. That's why the governments are now cooperating. So stay tuned on that. But remember, it was PGurus that first shone a spotlight on these things. So we'll see how this plays out. Next, Quad Summit likely to be postponed from January 2024. India is the host nation. Main reason for this, sir?
Well, I think that the main reason that firstly, there's official, unofficial. Official reason is coordinating schedules. It's busy time of the year. Australian Prime Minister, same day, Australia Day. The US Prime Minister, US President, Mr. Biden, has challenges in terms of accommodating this. Now, we have again go back. When Biden administration took charge, we mentioned that Quad will be relegated and made into a non-entity because it is a President Trump initiative. That's exactly what has happened in the past 3 years. As we move into the fourth year, it happens along the sidelines. In May, the summit was held in Japan when Indian Prime Minister said he is looking forward to the summit in United States. In India, and that's not happened. Did Chinese whisper something to Biden? And did Chinese say something as part of the bilateral discussions and say, hey, as a proof, why not you don't attend? It could have happened. So there are several geopolitical tensions, and they have effectively relegated Quad into a secondary kind of an entity. But at the same time, India continues to push its agenda in terms of the South China and the Global South agenda.
Thank you, sir. And the Indian Vietnamese armies have commenced an 11-day joint military training exercise named Winbax 23 in Hanoi, Vietnam. So you can see increasingly India taking part in exercises in countries that are in and around the South China Sea. For instance, we are going to come to Philippines. It's a major development there. But more importantly, now India's submarines, it is believed, are already in the South China Sea. The interesting thing here is China is frustrated because this is all I'm hearsay from other shows, sir. I'm just going to quote from other shows. They are frustrated because their own submarines are noisy and they are getting picked up by others, whereas India's and US's submarines are so quiet that they are unable to track them. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, I think that I'm not a defense analyst, so I'm not going to comment on the relative quietness or non-quietness of the submarines. But what I can comment is that from a security and strategic perspective, India is now well anchored with Vietnam, well anchored with Philippines. It's also having discussions with Thailand, and it also the three chiefs, if you recall, again we covered this in DGI, visited Taiwan. And offered their support. So is obviously Japan and India has a 2+2 initiative, as well as collaborating and sharing. Japan and India have conducted many and several exercises in South China Sea. So India has got itself lined up with a vast array of assets and strategic partnerships with key players in the South China Sea, Sree.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to the next news item. India news continuing. This exercise with Vietnam aims to foster a collaborative partnership and promote interoperability between the two forces, according to the Indian Army. China continues its invasion of Bhutan despite ongoing talks over border boundaries in the Jakarlang Valley of North Bhutan. Sir, I'll stop here and let you expand on this a little bit. The king had come for a 3-day visit to India. Usually, what is there to talk for 3 days? Something more is brewing, according to me. Sir, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's important we go to the map so people understand.
Yeah, let's go to the map, please.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's Jakarlang Valley. It's not too far from Thimphu, and it's not too far if you go east to the Doklam Valley. Okay, it's not too far from the Doklam area. So you can see that there is the dotted area is some of the dotted area is where the encroachment. They've come deep into Bhutan as cattle grazers, and saying that there is a historical reason as to why they believe that this is not part of Bhutan, it is part of China. Now, this is also a very important Buddhist what we call religious area, which is of significance to not only to Bhutan but to the Tibetans. So you are now beginning to find that wherever there is this influence, the Chinese are trying to come in and exert what you call as tremendous direct and indirect interference and influence to exert pressure on Bhutan to concede. Their goal is basically to have a multiple fronts. You can see in South China Sea they are attacking, and in the northern area of India they are giving trouble. And again, this is not too far from the Arunachal Pradesh either too. So Bhutan, the King of Bhutan and the Prime Minister have the King of Bhutan visited and spent 3 days in India, reassuring that there will be no side deal. What the Chinese have leveraged is Bhutan has said, if there is a border issue, let us settle this once for all and let's have a normal relationship so you are not threatening us in other parts of areas of Bhutan. They have taken this out of context and trying to encroach. This is what is going on with the Chinese.
Sir, I'm wondering if the only lasting solution would be for Bhutan to opt to merge with India, because already India is controlling their foreign policy. To some extent, I think they are also helping Bhutan with some of the banking also. I know Indian rupee is, I think, legal tender in Bhutan. So this is something where they need to make up their mind if they want to stand up to these constant threats or not. So I'm just thinking loud, Sridharji. I have no proof to say that something like this is happening or not, but you can't just be rattled all the time. First of all, China has much to fix in its own house, and people are falling like 9 pins. And we still don't know how many of the people who have been purged from their posts are still alive or not. And that's a different thread for a different day. But my point is, China is in a huge turmoil internally, and probably Xi Jinping is trying to externalize that problem. This is my 2 cents, sir. Myanmar rebel clashes with junta a problem for China or India? Your thoughts?
But the problem is for both, but the problem is more acute for India. About 2,300 families have sought shelter in as part of the troubles that is brewing. They've sought shelter, and there is worry in India whether there is part of an infiltration effort, and because the 350-mile border is very porous. I'm told that the Assam Rifles is helping to make sure that the infiltration attempts are stalled. This is again a Chinese thrust on a multi-pronged basis to continue to be a source of irritation to India.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to the next line item, please. Philippines. Yeah. Asian News. Philippines says its military chief was aboard the ship ran by the Chinese vessels. We've talked about this briefly. Sridharji, the Chinese are preventing the Philippines from doing what they normally do, which is to get fishing. They do fishing in those islands for their own people, and that is being actively thwarted by China. And where is this headed, Sridharji?
Well, I think again we have covered very extensively with maps and details the shoals, Scarborough Shoals area. If you recall, there is a ship that got stuck in that area and which is used by Philippines as a patrolling and military kind of a post. Supplies need to go in addition to fishing. And China has been thwarting because it is when we show the map, you can see it. It's in a very important strategic location. So they want to drive the Philippines out so that they have unhindered access into the region. Now you can see the Philippines map, and you can see that there's a little place right in the center. We have to expand the map. It's called as the 𝗤𝙬𝙬 Shoals. So that's the area where there is contest happening. It is not too far from East China Sea, and it is also not too far from what I call as the strategic corridor. The strategic corridor here is Senkaku, Taiwan. Taiwan is a little small area right above Philippines, and then you have the 𝗤𝙬𝙬 Shoals right below in the Philippine Sea. So you can see they have a strategic aspiration to hurt Japan, to hurt Taiwan, and to have unhindered access in East China Sea and South China Sea. And Taiwan, Senkaku, and 𝗤𝙬𝙬 Shoals remain their problematic thread. And this is what they're trying to mitigate, Sree. And if you recall, we again predicted which will be the first port of call for the Chinese. It's
Senkaku.
Senkaku. It's not going to be Taiwan. It is going to be Senkaku. Once they take Senkaku, then they will silence the Japanese and say, don't twist your tails. We're going to now take Taiwan. It's a problem because there's also a very big U.S. U.S. fleet stationed in Japan, just as an act of deterrence. So Senkaku could pose a real problem in terms of the rest of the world's aspiration to thwart China from going to Taiwan.
Sridharji, while we are on the topic of Taiwan, let us finish that one line and then I have some thoughts here. Taiwan continues to face pressure tactics from threats from China on the verge of its elections. Sir, the three parties that are contesting, a little bit on that too. Please go ahead, sir.
Well, I think that there is the pro-China party, and then there is the neutral, and then there is the anti-China party. So we are now in a situation which is China saying, don't vote the anti-China party. Okay, if you want to have normal relationship, vote the pro-Chinese party. We have had meetings with the leadership. We have sent our reps. So you will have peace. Well, they have to look at Hong Kong. We'll cover that on another topic, another day. But as to what has happened to Hong Kong has been relegated to nothing with all the stuff going to Shenzhen and Shanghai. That's exactly what their aim is as far as Taiwan is concerned. Deconstruct Taiwan, deconstruct everything, and, unilaterally put the Chinese dictatorship and assertive rights into Taiwan. I don't think the world is going to allow that to happen, Sree.
Thank you so much, sir. And viewers, Taiwan is one of those places where the China wants to do something, but they are unable to. We know that one submarine got stuck there, and this was the one that was allegedly supposed to have attacked the U.S. submarine. Remember, at the Hainan Island, U.S. was sitting there. The Hainan Island it's a submarine port for China, and U.S. was sitting there. It was watching, and China didn't want them to watch, so they came and hit it from below, allegedly. And then the submarine that hit from below then quietly sails off, except that it is not able to escape. It is caught, and it is in between Taiwan and China. It surfaced. That was one problem. I don't know how they fixed that. There's another submarine, northern part, where the entire fleet died because there was a chemical leak or some sort. So China, and then recently their state-of-the-art ship got set on fire. Sir, with what are they thinking that they can invade any country, sir? Their arms are not going off. Their missiles come back and land on their own head. I'm just, what exactly is going on in Xi's mind?
Well, it's very interesting observations in terms of their strategic non-capabilities of the Chinese, what you call the Armageddon in the naval fleet. And this is the reason why, folks, we put F-35. The F-35 shooting down is a very significant message to the Chinese, which is to say, okay, you want to come with submarines, you know by yourself the submarines are not working. You want to come with your carriers and with your kind of equivalent of, what you call as the stealth. We have the capability to take it, and we are demonstrating it day in and day out, out in the Red Sea and out in the Middle East. So I think that the China is getting the message on the military aspects of it, but they have not let down their political aspirations, especially of this President Xi Jinping, who seems to be a maverick. He doesn't want any peace and he doesn't want stability, given his own economic debilitation that is taking place within China, Sriji.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to the next topic, please. In Asia news, China and Japan accuse each other as maritime incursions occur again near the disputed islands of Senkaku. This is what we touched upon. Myanmar military meets with rebel groups in Chinese help, says the junta spokesperson. Sir, your thoughts?
No, I think that they're just making a statement. The junta is losing ground against the rebels. So people are fed up with the junta. So Chinese say, okay, we can work with the rebels and bring about a truce. But I just don't think this is also working, Sriji. But the only problem is some of these rebels, because of the constant war, especially those who are in the border region, are spilling into India.
I would encourage all of our viewers to watch Monday night, 8 p.m. IST. I had aired a segment with General Ravi Shankar. We talked about the problem in Myanmar, especially in the Shan state. This is all connected to drugs. This is the thing. And India is taking a real hard stance against it, trying to destroy the poppy cultivation in Manipur, also trying to make sure that the influence of these drug lords is minimized on India. And all these things, we still don't know who is supplying from the other side, but we know there's a lot of money involved. That money has been shut down. So that's where the crux of the problem is. Let's go to the next slide, please. In European news, as the Russia-Ukraine war lingers along with accusations, Hungary threatens to block Ukraine entry into EU. Sir, we saw that Turkey wasn't allowing two of the other countries to come into NATO because according to NATO, any member can object and then that has to be resolved before the new country can be admitted in. And now you are seeing Hungary also is trying to, threatening to block Ukraine. What is the main reason, sir?
Oh, it's a Russian ally. Which is...
I thought Hungary was right-wing, sir. Viktor Orban.
Viktor Orban is a Russian ally. Viktor Orban is a Russian ally. So therefore, he's basically saying that, Ukraine is, he may not yield his territory, he may not give, but he's got a subtle support, and he has not been for this Russia-Ukraine war. He's not been a supporter. He has not been a supporter of the aid. But as far as the EU membership is concerned, it's very critical that they have a unanimous consent. You don't have any problems with anybody, but this is one of the topics that's going to be discussed in the December. We will cover in one of the DGIs what is the agenda in Brussels in terms of the broad topics that is to be discussed during the month of December. We'll cover that in one of the DGIs, and one of them is the EU membership to Ukraine. So they've raised some objections, and let us see how that pans out.
Also, viewers, I hope you saw my 8 o'clock monologue on Qatar Gate, how Qatar tried to bribe its way through the EU, trying to have them whitewash all their crimes in terms of allowing 6,750 personnel to die while they were constructing the World Cup soccer city. So actually, literally, a new city was constructed, and this is something that you may want to look at. That gives you some stunning data about how Qatar goes about doing its business practices. Now, Russian opposition politician Alexei Navalny, he was poisoned. Then he was brought back to Russia, and he was imprisoned there. And now looks like he's been removed from the penal colony. And where is he today? Where in the world is Alexei Navalny, Sridharji?
He is in the middle of being transferred to another prison. It takes few days. It takes few weeks. So nobody will know until such time which prison has been moved to. Why? Because Russia is in the middle of elections. and they don't want him to be visible and seen and accessible. So they put him on transit, very typical Vladimir Putin policy, Sriji.
So, sir, when you said elections, there is an S in front that is silent, isn't it?
It is.
Next slide, please. Navalny's team says he has been missing from Russian prison for at least 6 days. Sir, what is his support? Where is his support coming from, Alexei Navalny?
Broadly from a vast number of Russian people, because Russia is suffering. Just like China, Russian people are broadly suffering. It's only what you call as the old Eastern mindset, which wants to see or right-wing Russia, which supports Vladimir Putin. But broadly, the people are against what is going on because there have been sanctions. They have not much access. Many of them were drafted as into the army to fight this useless Ukraine war. So there's a lot of internal tensions, but they cannot do anything. And Navalny remains the figure, at least in their view, defiant to take on. At least he's openly visible and defiant to take on, unlike the others. You saw what happened to the very famous rebel group head. What happened to him? Peace was struck. He's now no longer. He's reached God Almighty.
Next one, please. Other global headlines: inflation and interest rates spiral in Latin America, with Mexico holding prime rate at 11.25% and Argentina's inflation to spike to 12%. And is Africa tilting towards China and Russia? Both these topics, and then we'll wind up, sir.
Well, I think that the big problem that is looming, and you saw some of the lower economic growth numbers when over the weekend we covered, is clearly interest rates and inflation are a very big issue besides social upheavals in the broader Latin American region. Argentina is impacted, Mexico is impacted, Brazil is impacted. So many of the nations are impacted. So we'll again cover in detail about this. As far as the Africa is concerned, there's small deals that are going, Burkina Faso, Mali, etc. That you find that they're all moving towards economics, but they're also tilting towards either China or Russia. United States and India have been trying their best, and the French, they've been trying their best to put investments and to regain. But right now, Russia has just won a deal for doing gold refining in one of the African nations. China has got investments. They have a footprint into Nigeria and a couple of other places. So you are beginning to see Chinese and Russian influence exert itself. How that will shape the global politics. Again, we will do more of this in the following DGIs, but we have done a very big story in the old DGI as to why the African coast is very important from an Indian Ocean strategy for the Chinese.
Yes, indeed, sir. Thank you so much. And Sridharji, we have a couple of questions from our viewers, and then we will wrap up the program. Go ahead, please. Questions. Akruti Raikar wants to know, does it matter if US taxpayers are paying for the Ukraine war? Anthony Blinken said that they are making money because of the war. Your thoughts?
No, they're not. I don't know about they're making money, because the reason is that the US taxpayers are funding. I mean, all you need to do is look at the budget. We are way above. Our deficits are running. We are funding this on borrowings. Now we have the Israel war, and there's a whole set of disputes that's going on within the House in terms of approval. And the Democrats are trying their best to make sure that the Ukraine and the Israel war tied together as a single approval. And the Republicans are saying, no. Israel war is different. We have funded enough Ukraine. We need some strategic objectives so that before we decide anything on Ukraine, which is the reason why the Ukrainian president is in DC.
Next one, please. Shekhar wants to know, sir, can you do a detailed video on how to research a topic in detail, or maybe brief about it? I'm having a difficult time to research, as there are very limited websites from which we can get genuine data, as most websites are by Western research institutes.
Well, I think you have to research the data and then you have to overlay with your own inferential capabilities, because the world is today divided into two camps, either pro or anti. There's nothing called as a middle ground. And Sree can chip in and say, we are the middle ground. Come to us and research various programs of ours as a what you call inferential mechanism to make a judgment on a specific topic. You go and do the left and right, then come to PGurus, and maybe you do a video search. You will find something more objective and draw your conclusions. But most of the Western research, as you rightly point out, on geopolitical issues tilts one way or the other way. That's why they are advocacy groups.
Next question, please. Aditya Prakash wants to know, sir, the trade imbalance between Russia and India now is highly skewed. Can Russia trade with Africa using INR soon?
I don't think India would allow, because it creates a whole set of complications. And India has only established a nostro and a vostro as a bilateral trade mechanism. India is not an arbitrator. India is neither a trade exchange to bring about Russia, India, and Africa.
I think India's exchange mechanism is using UPI, and that's where it is probably more confident about how it can allow money to come into India or go out of India, especially about 18 to 24 countries now have signed up. So I think that's where the thing is, but that might be only individuals, right? UPI might not be country to country.
It's a transaction mechanism. It's not a trade exchange. It's not a currency exchange. It's not a trade exchange.
Yeah.
So you need a trade exchange, you need a currency exchange, and you need a settlement mechanism. Let's say that Russia wants to buy something from Africa, or Africa wants to buy something from Russia. You need a trade exchange. The trade exchange has to be in India. Then you need to have a settlement mechanism, which means to say Russians pay India as a trade settlement house in ruble and in exchange for rupee, and then in turn Africans use their rand or whatever the appropriate currency. And then they convert it to Indian rupee. So the story is you need cross-currency rates as well as a settlement mechanism. I just don't think India is ready as yet. But India's UPI is effectively means if somebody goes to Africa, they can use the UPI to do transactions with India. And if some country wants to implement UPI as a payment mechanism in that specific country, which doesn't have the real-time payment, then they can use. So it's only to that extent the UPI is used.
Thank you very much, Sridhar, and viewers, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and do send in by way of comments any questions we may have. Sridhar and I do monitor our comments channel, and any relevant questions we will try and address those. And we'll be back again on Saturday, and that will be the business segment. And once again, Sridhar, thank you so much for putting together an elaborate look at the world in the last 7 days and looking forward. Once again, namaskar, thank you, and see you all very soon.
Namaskar, thank you. Have a wonderful week.